Welcome back to Tammer Bowling Video Ball Reviews. Today we are testing the new Roto Gremlin. If you like what we do, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and check us out on Patreon. First impressions, the Gremlin has a catchy name, but is it as menacing as the name implies? Alright, let's get into it. On paper, the Gremlin looks to fit in that Rubicon UC2 territory, and the initial impression is it's not far off. Core specs are fairly similar, with the Rondor maxed having a slightly higher differential. It's got a newer cover, but I don't need to get into the details on that. You can read it on their website. The colors are also similar, so Rotogrip is clearly trying to recall the UC2 with it, also being a non-nano cover stock. It immediately is clear. It goes pretty long. I had to scuff it right away lightly with 1500 grit, which was enough just to make the reaction reasonable for this pattern, albeit still fairly direct. I couldn't get really past the third arrow as it becomes too over-under, but in the track it was a reasonably good look for me, even while still occasionally pushing a bit long. The Gremlin is one of those balls that for a tweener or a stroker is probably what I call a mid-late piece, so it's a little bit weaker, even with the mild asymmetry, and maybe closer to mid-defined minus for a power player. So it has a spot in the bag, but it's kind of a tweener itself, not being the strongest shiny asym nor a weak, clean symmetric. Although I have to say it didn't really feel much stronger than the High Road 40, for example, for me, which is where mid-late fits. Out of the gate, it also looked somewhat over-under for Tyler. It doesn't generate enough motion or response to make it from misses out, nor is it really able to hold, because I think the cover is pretty responsive. But the reaction feels what I would call a bit thin overall. Again, somewhat surprisingly for the Rondor core. It's like the length is too much and the response is too quick, and the core is not strong enough to get it into a roll early enough. However, we did go in and touch the the 1500 grit a little harder for Tyler. Still a relatively light scuff, but twice the amount of time, and the ball really I'd say came alive with that surface. Now it looked a lot more like a UC2 reaction with a slightly earlier read, but rounder and continuous motion. It just feels like this ball's operating window is significantly better once the power edge is knocked off. And that came as a bit of a surprise to us, as we've not had any real issues since Storm went away from Reactogloss to Power Edge compound finish. Now on to Brian, and perhaps because he was able to bowl in his normal area, or because we had preempted the surface change at this point, but he had quite a good look with it. Really no surprises. Now the length makes sense, straddling the friction line while creating good motion through the pins with that little quicker response cover stock. He had a nice look from around 12 to 9. He could miss in for some hold. But overall, I'd say it was a strong showing and fairly straightforward review from Brian's perspective. The bottom line, my initial impression feels like perhaps a menacing name like the Gremlin could have been saved for something different. Nevertheless, the ball acquits itself nicely as a Rubicon UC2 replacement, but we all definitely felt like the shape didn't come into its own until the power edge got a little bit of teeth in it with the surface. So still, I'd say it remains a kind of tweener type of ball in the sense that it's maybe a mid-late plus or a mid-defined minus. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next video.